Once you've selected your theme, it is time to begin to customize that theme. To do that, in your dashboard, drop down to Themes and click on Customize. It's important to note that each theme will have different options to customize. So this is really based on my theme, Eden. So on the left-hand side, you have the menu of what you can change. And on the right-hand side, you have a preview of what your site actually looks like. If you have content in your site, you'll be previewing that. So you can make note that this is just a demo page, so I don't have a lot of content in there, and what is there is kind of dummy content. Do make note that you can go through and preview those responsive sites as well. So we're going to start with our site identity. That is our site title, which is right up there. Again, your name or something clever, just depending on how you're branding yourself. Tagline, some sites show those, some don't. And then with this theme, you have an option to add a logo. So I'm going to add one in, show you what that looks like. You can upload files. I'm going to be pulling some things from my media library. So you can see that pops up right there. And I can go ahead and remove that if I want to. I'm going to leave it there for just a second. Notice that now we have this save and publish icon. So if we've made some changes, we want to save those and make those live, we can click save and publish. Or we can hit our back arrow and go forward and make other changes. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I wanted to compare the logo to the header image for you. So I'm going to go into header image and I'm going to add a new image. And again, I can choose to upload files or I can choose them from my media library. And I'm going to select this image. And so you can see that when I put in a header, it bumps that logo out. So for this theme, I can choose one or the other, but not both. So take that into consideration as you're creating your site as well. Colors and backgrounds, I would be very cautious about making changes. If I did make changes, I would go with the artist selected palettes here. So you can see those are going to change my hyperlinks. It's going to change my background here, and I can have some different options with that. So I'm going to go back to my default because I was pretty pleased with that. Whatever you do, never ever choose a background image. That is definitely not a good look. Another thing you don't really want to change is your default theme font. The designer of the theme has made things fit a certain way based on the font they chose. So if you change that, there's a pretty good chance some things are going to start looking wacky on it. If you don't like your theme font, you probably need a new theme. We already talked about header image, but I do want to say a couple of words about what you should be selecting for your header image. Whether it be your logo, whether it be your header image, that is a chance for you to visually express your brand, to show people what you stand for. So make sure that that image is not one of the default images. Make sure that image is creative and reflective of who you are, reflective of what your portfolio will be. I'm going to get further into menus in another video, but I just wanted to show you this is where you edit your menus. In my case, I have two different menus. I have a primary menu and a secondary menu, and I'm just going to change these so you can see what that means. So this is my primary menu and this is my secondary menu. And when we get into those, I'll kind of show you what you want to do if you have a primary and a secondary menu. I also have a footer menu, which is my social media menu down here. So again, we'll look at that later. I just wanted to point out those locations. And here's the actual menus that I can go in, rename, and edit. Content options. Content options are how you want content to display in your posts and your pages. So do you want things to be a full post in a blog setting, or do you want it to just be an excerpt? Do you want to display dates, author? So if there's things on your posts that you don't necessarily want there, like author, you can go ahead and delete those. Date might be another one that you don't want to display. You can also choose where you want your featured images to display, and we'll talk about featured images when we talk about posts and pages. And widgets. So widgets are these items that you can see located here. These might also be referred to as sidebar widgets. The name of them should be an indication of where they are located on your page. So footer 1 is currently this map. So obviously that's probably something that I wouldn't have on a portfolio, so I can remove that and I can add new widgets. So let's say for this widget I want it to be a text widget, and I'm going to just have a little welcome notice. So you can see I just made that change right there. Since we made a couple of changes, I'm going to go ahead and save and publish. So footer 2 is again another text widget. I can again add multiple widgets. I can change them. A couple of cautions on your widgets. It is not a good idea to have embedded Twitter feeds, embedded Facebook feeds, anything that feeds from an outside source that could slow your site down. Not a good idea. You might want to include recent posts. You might want to include links, maybe to some websites that you enjoy, that you read. This is a good time to do additional professional information and to kind of put your foot forward professionally. Footer 3 is actually a custom menu, and I can go in and add a menu, change that as well. Your static front page is an opportunity for you to either display your most recent posts or to have a static page that never changes. This is all dependent on what you like the best. Most of the time for portfolio, a static page is what works best. That's what you would have, so that front page never changes. Compare that to having your latest posts, and you can see that's going to change to whatever I published last. So you'll get two totally different looks with that. Your post page is going to default to typically a blog page, and I want to differentiate that for you. So one thing I would encourage you to do is have some type of writing that you would consider your professional writing. It might be you reflecting on a rebranding operation that a major company did. It might be some reflections on some news events if you're a news info student. This would be your chance to do some professional writing, comment on your industry, and make that voice heard. Your portfolio pieces will be organized in a different way and will be presented in a different way. So just kind of keep those separate in your mind. Theme options, again, this will be dependent on your theme. So I'm going to go up here because this is kind of a cool thing you can do with this theme. So I have this in the classic style, but I can switch to a default menu style. And notice my menu becomes this, and my logo reappears. So you can have two different kind of looks there. Here's where I can choose to have my sidebar in left or right. Most of the time you want your sidebars to remain on the right hand side because we read from left to right, so you don't want to be interrupted by kind of a navigation menu. I can choose my thumbnails. That's these down here. So I like that kind of square look. I do like a search form in my header. You can remove that if you find that search to be distracting. My theme allows me to have 3 featured sections, and that is just right here. So I have 1, 2, 3 featured sections. Testimonials would be something that you would mainly do if you were a business and you were going to have people who used your services comment on that. So that's just an overview of what you can customize in your customizer and some things to think about as you get started with that.